It's 3 a.m. Something pulls you out of sleep. Your eyes open in the dark, and the whole house is silent. And just like that, you are awake. Completely, frustratingly awake. You reach for your phone and you do the cruel math of how many hours you have left. A small panic begins to rise. Why can't I just sleep? You lie there, convinced that something is wrong with you, that your body is broken. Maybe you have read about insomnia, about sleep disorders, about everything you are doing wrong. But what if you are not broken at all? What if this exact moment is far older than you think? What if waking in the dead of night is not a malfunction, but an instinct? Because for almost all of human history, this 3 a.m. waking was not a problem, it was the plan. You have been taught one simple rule, that healthy sleep is 8 unbroken hours in a single block. Anything less and you feel like you have failed before the day even begins. So when you wake at night, you call it insomnia, a modern disorder, a glitch to be fixed with pills. But that idea, that sleep should be one solid block, is barely 200 years old. For tens of thousands of years before that, humans slept in a completely different way. And the real reason will change how you feel about every sleepless night for the rest of your life. Our story begins with a historian named Roger Eckertz. In the 1990s, he was buried in centuries of old documents, letters, diaries, and court records. He was not even looking for sleep. He was studying the history of night itself. And he kept noticing a strange phrase that made no sense to modern eyes. People did not write about their sleep. They wrote about their sleeps, plural. They mentioned a first sleep and a second sleep, as if everyone simply knew what that meant. The phrase even shows up in old classics, in Chaucer, in Tolstoy, hidden in plain sight for centuries. Eckertz found this same pattern over 500 times across centuries of writing. Here is how it worked. People went to bed a few hours after sunset. They slept deeply for about 3 or 4 hours. This was the first sleep. Then, a little after midnight, they woke, not by accident, but naturally, on their own. And for an hour, sometimes 2, they were simply peacefully awake in the dark. Then they returned to bed for their second sleep, until the first light of morning. This was not some rare habit of one strange village. Eckertz found it in England, in France, in Africa, in South Asia, across the entire pre-industrial world. Waking in the middle of the night was not broken sleep. It was exactly how sleep was supposed to work.
And that quiet hour in between had a life of its own. People used it to pray, to reflect on their dreams while they were still fresh. One old doctor even advised couples to save lovemaking for after the first sleep, when they were rested. Some rose to tend the fire, or check on the animals, or step outside under the stars. Neighbors would even whisper to each other through the dark, sharing the quiet of the night. The waking hour was not wasted. It was woven into the rhythm of ordinary life. But this raised a deeper question. Was this just a habit, or something written into the body itself? In the early 1990s, a scientist named Thomas Ware decided to find out. He took a group of healthy volunteers and did something simple but radical. He removed all artificial light, giving them 14 hours of darkness every single night. A world, in other words, much like the one our ancestors lived in. For the first few weeks, the volunteers just slept, long and deep, catching up on years of lost rest. But then something ancient began to surface on its own. Their single block of sleep quietly broke apart into 2. They would sleep, wake for 1 to 3 hours in the middle of the night, then sleep again. It was the exact same pattern Eckertz had found hidden in those dusty old diaries. The body, given darkness, remembered something the modern world had made it forget. And in that waking window, the volunteers' bodies did something remarkable. A hormone called prolactin rose to high levels, the calm hormone released when we feel deeply relaxed. It is the same hormone that floods a mother after birth, pure, drowsy contentment. It held them in a gentle, dreamy, meditative state, somewhere between waking and sleep. They did not feel anxious. They did not toss and turn or fight to fall back asleep. They described it as one of the most peaceful states they had ever known, a quiet island of calm floating in the middle of the night. So why would evolution build us this way? Why wake at all? To answer that, picture a night tens of thousands of years ago. A small band of humans sleeps around a slowly dying fire. But notice something, they do not all fall asleep at the same time. There is always someone, somewhere in the group who is just a little bit awake. An older woman stirs early, her sleep already lighter with age. A young hunter dozes near the entrance, one ear turned toward the dark. A mother surfaces briefly to listen to her child's breathing, then drifts off again. This was not random, this was survival. In the wild, a group that all sleeps deeply at once is a group that can be wiped out. A predator, a rival band, a sudden fire. No one would see it coming. Scientists today call this the sentinel hypothesis, the idea that staggered, broken sleep meant someone was always on watch. And we've actually measured it. Researchers studied the Hadza, hunter-gatherers in Tanzania. Over hundreds of hours of recorded sleep, there were almost no moments when everyone was asleep at once. In fact, across the whole study, the entire group was asleep together for only about 18 minutes total. The older members tended to wake earliest, the younger ones stayed up latest. Some call it the poorly sleeping grandparent hypothesis, the light sleep of the old protecting the young. Different sleep clocks in different people meant the watch was never empty. Your light, restless sleep, the kind that snaps awake at 3 a.m., may be a gift from that ancient guard duty. Not a flaw in your body, but an old job it still remembers. It is not weakness, it is inheritance.
And like in those old diaries, the prehistoric midnight had its own quiet world. Some fed the fire, coaxing the small flame to keep burning against the cold. Some pulled an animal skin back over a sleeping child's shoulders. Some sat close and spoke in low voices, sharing plans, worries, and old stories. Some lay on their backs and simply watched the stars turn slowly across the sky. With no screens and no streetlights, the night sky was the greatest show they had. It was a time for the mind to drift, to dream while still awake. And for the healers and dreamers of the group, this hour felt closest to the spirit world. So what happened? Why did we forget all of this? The answer is light. As gas lamps and then electric bulbs filled our nights, darkness shrank. Before all of this, the average person spent the night in flickering firelight or near total darkness. We pushed our bedtimes later and later and squeezed all our sleep into one tight block. The long, calm, waking hour simply had no room left to exist. And within a few generations, we forgot it had ever been normal at all. So we took something ancient and natural and gave it a frightening new name, insomnia. Now come back to your own bedroom, 3 a.m., your eyes open in the dark. Your body does not understand electric light or alarm clocks or 8 rigid hours. It only understands the dark. And in the dark, it does what it has always done. Sleep scientists today say the same thing, that waking in the night is normal, and the real harm is the panic about it. That waking is not a malfunction, it is a memory written into you across 100,000 years. So the next time you wake in the middle of the night, try not to panic. Do not reach for your phone, do not count the hours, do not call yourself broken. The worst thing you can do is fight it. The more you chase sleep, the further it runs. Because you are not broken, and you are not failing. You are simply awake in the oldest, quietest hour that human beings have ever known. For a few still minutes, you are keeping watch, just like 100,000 years of people before you. And then, like all of them, you can close your eyes and fall gently into your second sleep.